Great reunion.
That was
Yeah,
that was
that
so
reunion was so
fun.
fun.
It was
Ain't
so
no
nice to
laws
see
when you're
everyone.
drinking claws, am I right?
Christine, you're a
What
great
can I
babe.
say? I get it from my dad.
Oh my gosh. Of course. My uncle Rodney Frelinghuysen and your dad are such great friends. They were such great
I know. Gary
See
loves
how
your
that
uncle.
relationship would work.
Oh, come
Yeah, I
on. They
don't
go
know.
out every weekend. They just like
Yeah,
being in each other's company. It's completely platonic.
they do.
Jill and I like to drink kombucha at this bar in Portland near us. So I was wondering, I hope this bar has it too.
Yeah, I mean,
Kombucha?
I don't purchase drinks from bars because I tend to stock it with beers from these huge corporations, and not my thing.
That's
Bars
understandable.
and beer.
Yeah.
Honestly, while some things may go against my beliefs, nobody really values what I care about. So I gotta break my own moral code sometimes for a good beer.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear those people at the other table? They were talking about the Green New Deal at the reunion. It was crazy.
Really?
Crazy
New
conversation,
Deal.
yeah.
I can't believe that came
Wow.
pass.
Absolute imbeciles they are.
I think there's some good reasons why it didn't pass.
I think that any legislation that looks to fight for economic inequality and or to solve economic inequality and climate changes probably has some merit.
I would totally. I mean, I don't see how anybody could be against that. Both my fathers, Joe Biden and Barack Obama, during their political careers, always fought for things like that. So, it was really sad to see it not get through.
And
Well, it's strange to see the thing that caused all the economic inequality and environmental problems trying to solve it. Just saying. Seems
who
a little
you
bit
insinuating
critical.
caused it?
The
The government?
Duh.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think
the companies that produce these things that would put out all the CO2 in the air every single day.
True, and
okay, but those big companies
government
provide so many jobs.
want to stop it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but who do you think
jobs
is
is not
bailing them
all it
out
is. Jobs
and
is not
allowing it to
all it is.
continue?
Are they good jobs? Do they treat the workers well?
Money's money. The working class gets overlooked by all of these environmental people. These big corporations are what give so many people homes.
Okay, but
Yeah,
The
but
government is
new
what supports these
environmentally
big corporations.
a new renewable energy sector could create a whole slew of new jobs, plus protect the
Exactly.
health of minorities and poor people that these corporations, which pollute, disproportionately affect.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
I'm sure that they were high-paying jobs. Unionize the workers, treat everyone fairly.
Agreed.
The people
I
who
think
are
we should
trained in the
decriminalize
jobs we have.
prostitution as well. Just saying, just putting it out there.
Did you why? Or Christine, why? Completely
Well,
unrelated.
Seems,
you know
yeah.
what? It's just the thought that came to mind. It's something we've been trying to do for years. I mean, my dad supports
Okay,
it.
we're gonna
I
talk
support
about
it.
the
Our
Green New Deal
platform
still. I'm not
does.
done with this. Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, I
River.
don't know. I don't, because the people who are trained in the jobs we have now that are centered around things like oil and these big corporations, like Anna said, there's millions of people who work for them, like people who make the clothes, ship the clothes, all this stuff. You can't just train them in a new thing because you decided that a new form of energy is what you want.
Well, we're not
Doesn't work.
suggesting that you shut down all the factories. We're suggesting that those factories and things like that choose a different energy source to cut down on carbon emissions and things like that. Or if we don't want to do that, we could propose something like a carbon tax.
Look, this is totally outside
More
the scope of the
taxes,
government.
great.
You know, we could
I'm
also
all for taxes.
I'm for lower taxes.
affect the workers that much, and we could ask the private companies to like prevent or clean up the toxic waste they make instead of laying people off. Just hold them to a bigger responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
What happens between private employers and companies is their business and their employees. That's not the government's problem. They should be able to deal with their own issues.
So what is the government's problem?
Yeah.
That's a good question, but it shouldn't be a lot of things that try to control the people.
Right, but then isn't
The
that...
government's job should be to protect the people from the government.
How would that work?
How would that work?
Yeah. We have to make legislation that prevents the government from
But if
involving
you're
themselves so much in
advocating
people's
for
lives.
no legislation by passing
I'm not
legislation, then
advocating
that
for
just...
no legislation.
Okay. Well,
Look, this whole
I
thing probably isn't even real. Like, why are we worrying about something that science hasn't even proved yet or will never prove? Because
it
it's just a
Oh,
hasn't
regular
science
cycle.
hasn't proven it. Right.
You know
Who do
Okay.
you
what?
think
Not
pays those scientists?
99%,
Not this again.
99% of climate scientists are in agreement over climate change. And
But the
so,
1%.
And where do you
okay,
think
the
that
1% are
those
people like
scientists?
Tiffany.
Don't you
I'm
dare
not that
insult
rich.
Tiffany like that.
I'm not that rich.
Yep.
Look, all I'm saying is all of those scientists who people credit with this climate change information fall somewhere on the political scale, and certain people from certain parties fund their research. So I'm just saying it's compromised
But what would
and
be the
probably not
point?
true.
What would be the point of compromising that? Like, what is the point of lying about
More party support.
climate change?
More party support. You
Why would
Allowing the government
down-
to have more
You heard
control.
it. Takes down big business. All these things that you blue people, left-leaning snowflakes want is going to be fueled by some sort of a platform like this whole green thing, which isn't even provable.
It is
Believe it or not,
provable.
Right. So the left's just going
Some
to
people
pay
actually
for it
vote.
and believe in
Katarina,
global
what?
warming just to
Okay.
upend the entire social spectrum.
Yeah, that just is not realistic.
I
Like, that is a
wouldn't be surprised.
conspiracy theory of the century.
But a lot of people
Something that
can
the right
believe
tends
in a
to do.
conspiracy
Yep.
theory.
Yeah, and
But
you
this
know
isn't
what?
the government's problem, is what I'm saying here. The
I thought
government
you said
should
that it was the
not.
government's fault.
Dealing with it. There's nothing we individually.
It's the government's fault, but it's not their problem to deal with it either. They get themselves involved too much, and they cause all these issues that they have to try to backtrack on, and they fail to do so anyways. They only perpetuate the issue at hand.
Christine,
Look.
who do you think should deal with it? What should we do then?
Honestly, it's the people's problem to deal with it, and you know what? I think it's unrealistic. I think that people need to decide on their own that they want to change things and not have the government force it.
I agree. If certain people think that this whole thing is like an issue, people are saying it's the end of the world, which makes no sense. But if they think it's an issue, they can start recycling on their own. Limiting companies, therefore cutting jobs, makes no sense. And it's literally directly telling the working class that they don't matter as much as the rich people who can afford to compost in their backyard.
So
That's
not
false.
true. Listen, these companies are exploiting workers. We would not be necessarily cutting jobs, but we would be improving their conditions, because not only are these companies, exploiting workers to harm the environment, but these workers are often affected by their environmental hazards at these factory jobs. So not only would the Green New Deal help cut back on some of the bad corporation stuff, but also it has it also ensures more workers' rights, which you supposedly care about.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And besides, if the US takes blazes the trail in terms of economic research and new green technologies, we can become the world leader in a whole new manufacturing sector and a whole new manufacturing industry, which will only create more jobs.
And I think that we're all missing the fact that environmental deregulation only harms minorities and the poor. And so these working class people that you are saying you advocate for are actually disproportionately affected. You can see that in child asthma rates. You can see that just in general, like water toxicity and things like that. It disproportionately affects lower income and minority people, who which groups often coincide. So it is in the name of justice, we have to regulate the environment to stay true to our American values.
I don't think regulating the environment is
Okay.
going to magically fix all of the issues that people who are minorities or people who are poor have. It's just
I'm
not
not
realistic.
saying it will, but I'm saying that that what we have in place right now disproportionately harms them, which is not fair.
Exactly, which is why the government should not be involved at
So
all.
what? So okay, so
blame
these people
asthma
who
on this whole thing.
okay,
That doesn't even add up.
that's one thing. But Gigi, Christine,
Jeez.
if okay, so
Who is this Gigi?
how are
Speak
you
up.
expecting these people who have little resources as it is to make a difference in their livelihood? How is that supposed to work?
Look, individual
that
rights
question
should
supposed to
be
mean?
How are
Look,
they supposed to do it with limited resources? How are they supposed to fix the air quality in their neighborhood?
look, right now, discrimination in certain ways is completely legal. And you know what? We need to protect individual rights rather than trying to do this all encompassing thing. And the people need to also work for themselves to try to improve their lives because the
But don't you
government
understand?
shouldn't allow to be involved that much.
Rugged individualism.
We would be protecting the individuals and the workers by regulating these companies. The companies are the ones taking
Look,
away your freedom, not the
what
government.
happens between companies and their employees and whether or not they want to bargain with unions or not is not the government's business. It is up to the company and up to the employers to figure out their own issues without the government becoming involved in regulating it or making
But
anything compulsory.
but the government needs to lead the way, or else no one's going to take the personal action to do it themselves because people are naturally afraid of change.
And naturally greedy. So
You know, I think
Exactly. They're
with the
afraid of
difference.
change. People are saying climate change is a whole change. A couple warmer days hurt nobody.
okay,
Except for
right.
the rising sea levels and
When the sea level
the
takes out Miami and all of your dad's golf courses, eventually you're gonna care.
I was
Look,
going to
my
say,
dad pulled
Tiffany,
himself up from the bootstraps. His parents were Irish immigrants. No, you can't even, a golf course compared to not growing up with shoes. How rude.
I'm just saying that the privilege, like until someone sees their privilege threatened,
I am not privileged.
I'm just.
I mean, that's a lot coming from you, River, seeing as your mom went to Harvard and you come from this prestigious family.
Mm. I don't think
Just
poor
because she
people drink
went,
kombucha, River.
I have.
River?
I work as a community coordinator, and kombucha is my treat to myself.
You are white, therefore you need to realize your privilege. I do.
Okay, Christine.
She's so wrong.
Like my dad, Gary Johnson, taught me to always keep myself in check.
Gary Johnson also wants to eliminate the Department of Education, so I don't really
yeah.
think that much advice from him.
You know what? Again, people are afraid of change, like you said. So, you know what? Maybe it would be a good change to eliminate the Department of Education and let us decide on different standards of education
Look,
for our children.
This
Maybe it would be a
conversation is
good
going
thing.
off the rails now.
people have very good reasons to be afraid of change. Think about it. If we took the Green New Deal for exactly what it was, you'd be changing so much. It would change so many lifestyles because it's not just the implementation of something this big is not just this grand scale like large corporations. It trickles down to the truck driver who drives your clothes from Urban Outfitters to your house. It literally goes down that far from this huge thing to something little. You guys like your clothes, don't you? Yes, you do. So if you're to change all these
I do
things,
love my shoulder pads.
it's going to take way more time, first of all, for you to get your clothes. Your clothes are going to turn into double the price, things that middle and working class people cannot afford. Sometimes you guys can't afford these things. This trickles down to the smallest employees who need that money to raise freaking families.
So
It's
what
not
if
just
we
big corporations.
adjust? What if we adjust? What if we would you guys support an adjusted Green New Deal?
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Major adjustments,
what
but yes.
which parts do you object to? Like what would be something that you wouldn't want to see in it?
Me personally,
Anyone.
I don't want to see any of it. The government is not responsible for this. I could say this time and time
So
again.
you just support the abolishment of government is what?
Not the total abolishment of government, but I believe the government's only job is to protect individual rights and not get involved otherwise.
So
Isn't having clean air and clean water an individual right?
I was just gonna say that.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I would say it's a right, but we're the people who are causing, everybody's causing there to be not clean air and not clean water.
But it's not
So we're
But you don't have a
ruining our
right to
own
destroy the
rights.
environment. That's not someone's right.
Look, if we're gonna,
It's
if
not someone's
let's say this
responsibility
whole
to
thing
fix it
is
either.
whoever's responsibility it is, let's say this whole thing is real or whatever. I think what might be working better is if we can get some sort of a compensation package. This way, if all of you liberal snowflakes need to fix the earth, you can at least help people with their jobs because losing money isn't good for anybody, even if it fixes the grass and makes it greener. So some sort of an exchange would make a little bit more sense here, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's important to compensate the people who this deal, even though it's helping the world, might be hurting.
Yeah,
Objection.
I agree with that. Okay.
Objection.
You're not a judge. We're
If this is hurting people in the first place, it shouldn't be happening. That means it's
If
probably
there's-
not going
but
to work.
it-
there's a
The
way to
government's going to
undo-
screw
Greater
things up
good.
again.
we have a
What is the greater good?
we have a right to, or we have the responsibility to leave this earth in good hand, or like to leave the earth better than we found it, honestly, for our children and grandchildren, because it is not fair of us to go out and wreck the place and just expect other future generations to deal with it.
Exactly,
Well,
which
that's
is why I
also-
think trying to find some sort of middle ground is what we need to do. And if that means that, some people, the government hands out a compensation package for those who are adversely affected with their jobs because of the switch, then I think that's what we need to do.
There is no.
I would be okay with that. I could get behind that.
I mean,
My
There's
uncle
no
would too.
compromise, though. Either you have rights or you don't. Either the government is controlling your life or it's not. There's no compromise on that.
There
That
needs
is
to be
untrue.
some sort of government.
Christine,
There-
only you believe like this. There's a reason nobody pays attention to the Libertarian Party.
Excuse me, whatever, Katerina. There's a reason nobody pays attention to the Socialist Party.
Actually,
you guys
that
are
is untrue.
crazy.
Jill Stein should have been able to debate. We should have open debates, but that's a whole other thing.
This is just like high school.
River, nobody cares
Yeah,
about what
it's
your
just-
mom thinks. Stop trying to rehash this.
Right,
It's been
'cause people-
years.
Gary Johnson got on the air and said that he was going to destroy the entire government. So I don't really think that anyone cares what Gary Johnson
Hey,
has to say.
It's not my fault that my father's passionate about what he believes in.
Okay.
Listen, guys, listen. This whole Green New Deal thing
It's
We're-
ridiculous.
are agreeing that we can get to some sort of compromise, yes?
Yes, I
Absolutely.
think that's possible.
Absolutely not. Never, not in a million years.
Okay, besides, other than Christine.
Christine is angry at these
Thanks for making that
injustices.
clear.
Christine, you haven't changed a bit, have you?
Nope.
No, because I
Everyone
stick
has
to my
that.
guns, and I'm not a
Past 5 years.
wishy-washy, government-loving scumbag like the rest of you.
Okay, well, so I think a good place to start is a compensation package. Secondly, because we don't really have any hard scientific proof, I think that the Green New Deal is a bit, whatever you think, the Green New Deal is a
You're
bit
the only one who
extreme.
thinks
I
that
think
we
if we
don't have
can,
scientific proof of climate change.
look, my parents are very educated, as is my uncle. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Anyway, I think that if we can maybe do
But are
some
you
sort of
educated?
yes, I have a Bloomsbury College degree. Anyway,
Bloomsbury. You need to have a pulse to get into Bloomsbury, Tiffany.
Christine,
You're not proving anything.
The high school diploma.
Anyway,
You barely graduated high school.
stop it.
I did
Stop
all the
it.
work for you.
I was a cheerleader. Anyway, I was busy. I think that in the event that we can ease into something this way, in the event that all of a sudden things go back to normal, whatever you people consider normal is, we're prepared. So we're not doing anything too extreme. I think a compensation package and something very like that progressives would be a good idea.
Okay.
What about some sort of tax credit for communities that promote sustainable energy and things like solar panels on homes and businesses and things like that?
Yeah, I agree with that. The tax credit
I
seems
agree.
great. But I
good
also
idea.
think that we should impose a carbon tax on corporations to
Mm.
to try to curb emissions and make them pay for the true cost pricing, to make them responsible for the amount of toxins that they put in the air, and it could be used to fund the projects.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, it's
Don't
hard
love that,
to agree
but
with something this mild, but at this point, anything is anything in this country, and I'm willing to take when I can get in the direction of change.
It's a
if I can
very
get, yeah.
So if you're willing to take anything you can get, why don't we change it to less government?
That's
because
not
that is
Christine.
the opposite
Katerina,
of sustainable change, is not by lessening.
but how would you know if you never tried?
Because the people can't be trusted to regulate themselves.
Yeah.
How do
So
you
anarchy.
know?
People are
How do
naturally
you know?
selfish.
Because people are
Have you-
naturally selfish.
That's a one
Yeah.
belief.
Have you
We're
ever
not
filled out?
rehashing this argument again.
Yeah. Have you ever filled
Mhm.
out one of those things that's like, how many Earths would you
I have
would it take for if everyone lived like you?
14.
No, I haven't.
What?
So you should, because I'm pretty sure most Americans, especially living in upper class neighborhoods like we all came from, would take up around 3.
Actually,
So if
was
people
never.
like us, who technically could be conscious, live like we do with regulation, and we would take up 3 Earths by ourselves. Like if everyone lived like us, we would take up 3 Earths. Then how can the people be trusted?
But it is unrealistic to ever think about anybody living entirely in the same way, because that will never, ever happen.
enough people could live like us.
But
to
that
make
But I
is
think
more
that's
than
why we
enough
need
effort.
to talk to our allies and get international support from organizations like the UN or G20 summits and things like that to make
Yeah.
sure that
The UN.
the Western world's on the same page.
The UN already put
I
their
did-
support for the Green New Deal, so I think that a modified version would garner international support.
If I may
Absolutely.
interrupt, I did Model UN in high school, and the only thing I learned is that the UN has no power and can't do anything. It's the government's
They
responsibility
That's because that
if
was a
they
high
want them
school
to do anything,
competition and
and the
not the real
government shouldn't be
UN.
doing anything.
Roasted.
Actually, if you ever researched the UN, they can't do anything. They can only suggest
do things.
They
can
can do
suggest
things
and
that
their suggesting
barely
power.
help.
Their
There's power in
suggesting
an
power
alliance.
is very, very strong. So
They're very persuasive. So
yeah,
I've heard.
Mm,
you know.
but really though,
Plus Emma Watson's a
Yes.
part of the UN, so like I'm on board. It's like
Absolutely.
yeah.
we shouldn't be basing our beliefs off of
All right, no,
celebrities that
that's
happen to get
just-
themselves
Anyway,
involved politically.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I think a great place to start is what we talked about before, kind of just like a more kind of
Mild.
like a mild version of the Green New Deal.
And work into
that,
it.
Yes, that considers people beyond just like the general public, people who are rich and can afford to make these everyday changes, because not everybody is like that. So I think that's a good middle ground. There's some parts of it that I don't love, but I'm also not a politician, so.
The Green New Deal also set the time of the goal time of 10 years to get everything done. Do you think that, like, what do we think about that time span?
I think that 10
Unrealistic.
years is a good idea, and because our sea levels are rising every year, so I think that 10 years is honestly probably too long, but like we'll take what we can get.
10 years is not that much time.
Yeah, well,
right.
we'll be. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well,
That was a great.
nice to see you guys.
Yeah, great to see
It
you
wasn't.
guys.
The bartender never came with my drink, which I needed to get through this conversation.
Yeah, I never got a drink either. How ridiculous.
Why were we
they
ever
didn't have
friends in high
kombucha,
school?
so I didn't order anything. But
Yeah.
Christian, say hi to your dads for me and tell them that Jill is still mad at them for not passing legislation to let her get on the debate stage.
Gay rights are only
Yeah, right, I'll
one
do
step
that.
towards
Okay.
ending legal discrimination.
All right. Well, we'll see you at the next reunion in 10 years,
Yep.
guys.
10 years, maybe we'll
By then,
see
yeah.
if the Green New Deal will all be in place at that
Maybe
point.
you'll finally come to my side.
All right. Well,
No. Bye,
Highly
everybody.
unlikely. Bye,
all right,
everyone.
bye, guys.